Jmucc.
Nice to meet you, Gabriel.
Ben.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Josh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Alexander, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Alexander, nice to meet you.
Lisa, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you, Lisa.
Alexander, nice to meet
Lisa,
you.
nice to meet you.
Very good. So before we begin, you can use this a little bit. So hi, my name is Ethan. I'm your birthday. Usually morning times, where there are 10, 5, 2, and 37 today. And it was the story of 50. I'm sure you have that from you guys. So once that's passed, there's a countdown. You put my hand. Everyone else stop. As I've done that immediately. And you want to stop after the end of the period. Everyone on all sessions within a minimum of 15 minutes, and all teamers must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily later. All teamers can speak on the time of releasing the duration before teaching later. But now there's a use of you can say first, you can say, I'm reading out something.
I understand the unique challenges that come from participating in male-dominated industry. But I also understand that as a woman, I'm providing unique values to my team and unique perspectives. This is an understanding that the investment shares with our team. So I will say today, to present to you a solution on further bridging the gender gap in diversity within our team. Hi, I'm Jmucc. I'm here today with my team at PC Consulting, Josh, Alexander, and Ben to present you a solution. But first, let's look at the situation right now. Currently in Canada, women are making up more and more of the consumer market for asset management and are holding more power than the markets. Thus, as the demographic strength of women increases, it's important that asset management companies are recognizing that and also serving those customer needs by giving representation to women within their own companies. Given that this is a challenge that organizations is facing today, we propose to you the Rise and Thrive solution, which is a three-pronged solution, including a 20 summit for women, the expansion of the FAP or Employer Family Assistance Program, as well as a partnership with the Recruitment Association in order to further engagement into your company and ensure that women are able to not just thrive, but also thrive within MackenSEE investing.
So now you understand why we're here today. Let's go over a little bit of how you got here. Let's start with the current age trends. Women currently make up about 12% of professionals. This is John Michael average, 12.5%, meaning that we really get that above national average. There's also a stagnant ratio of men to women in the workplace. Since 2005, that's 20 years. We're going to see no significant change. We also provide causes for change. Also, women invest have a turnover rate of 40% compared to 29% of male colleagues. This is due to many issues, including family issues, as well as different injustices that they face in the workplace, including discrimination or different aspects of poverty syndrome. This leads to together. We're starting to address these issues. Build a women asset management program, being student athlete invisible, making sure that young women have a way to improve finance and start asset management. Next, mention and human women empowerment principles, how to use it to improve the workplace, support women, making sure that generations are both known and invest in the workplace. And finally, with time good career planning and work, making sure that all employees are able to have a fair chance to start a family while also making a career. Now, we see that public entity just be issues. There's absolutely no reason not to expand on it. And through this expansion program, we provide a wide range of benefits to all employees, but especially for women. Now let's talk about your core competencies, how you have been able to cultivate a winning mindset and really expand your skills, increasing accessibility to support how you can see across your different equity teams, as well as your sustainable business, and bring more women into finance. Right now, we're just together a program that's already in place, but these folks will be further benefiting more. Access across the corporation, we're a company. You can see what other firms are doing within this family brand to see how they are doing attacking these issues and how you leverage those insights right into your own firm. And you have $203 billion Canadian into asset management across these 16 boutique investments. You'll not find to grow their funds in a way they believe in and align with their own personal goals. That means they'll shift with the growing for wealth from men and women in Canada. So let's look at our decision matrix and the solution for your company. Our criteria for this program are number one, of course, a program needs to be cost effective for your company. We need to be able to justify this program with real returns on investment. Secondly, we want to see this program is pretty actionable. We need us a 5-year time frame to get this done, and we want to make sure that real change is able to happen within that time frame. We also want to see increases in retention for women in the workplace, much onboarding women, making sure that they are staying within the company and have a long and healthy career. We want to attract new employees, especially focusing on female employees that will vitalize the company, and boost skill development for women in the company, ensuring they're able to have some real development of their skills. So let's look at options that we consider. We consider expanding women in asset management programs, business sponsorship, only decided that it may not be cost effective, as we can take considerable investment and may not be pretty actionable. We also consider instituting a rotational early career program, focusing on women to ensure that they're getting good experience in your company to be able to move and go forward. However, we decided that it may be too expensive to wrap up and also not be actionable. We also consider recruiting amongst high school students to see career engagement from them. But we felt as though we wouldn't be able to attract the fact between a high school student and another company well enough to justify that sort of investment and time investment. So we ended up with our family assistance program, expanding on benefits for employees, making sure that especially when our business programs that we need, a women finance that is allowing women in the company to connect with one another and expand their mentorship opportunities, and a girls' invest partnership, which will connect the company with women who are really excited to enter finance and want to see more representation in companies like yours.
Now let's start with this. I want to host a 20 summit in Toronto, your headquarters. Now to provide workshops and speakers.
Partnered with Girls Who Invest, none of them currently are within the portfolios. Global mentors, again, this global outreach, 3 in 4 of Girls Who Invest members end up in careers in finance and stay there. And this all aligns with your goals currently and what you want to build as a firm, especially increasing equity within the workplace through Girls Who Invest goals themselves.
So what exactly would this Employer Family Assistance Program look like? An Employer Family Assistance Program is a program that provides a holistic approach to well-being care for employees. So we're not just providing health care, we're providing assistance with divorce, we're providing assistance with child care, elder care, anything that an employee could be struggling with on an individual or familial basis, this program can help with. Now, your company already has a employer family assistance program, but we want to make sure that this program is robust enough to really serve the needs of the women within your company.
And to add on to that, we also would like to point out it might cost about $50,000 for all 1,300 employees, and that's based off of a specific program called TELUS Health, who provides these types of services. So expanding that, and this is only the family care portion of those plans, will allow for your employees to have greater well-being, especially women who have a lot of obligations or feel like they have a lot of obligations to families. So having people to support them in those obligations will be incredible. Now let's move on to the implementation of this. To start with the summit. Now, a summit can be an expensive process, but we believe that there can be also some savings with this. To start, being hosted in Toronto, we found a convention center that can host this summit, and that would cost around $20,000 to host that at the convention center. And after all expenses are added up, we have about $189,000 expense to host this summit in MackenSEE. And now there was also going to be a retention effect. So we believe that every employee who is retained can have, every employee who's lost loses about $30,000 to having to hire new employees. So savings, if you save only just 2 employees, that's about a $60,000 saving for your retention. And this would have about 156 women attending in the first year, adding up to that $189,000 total expense, and that's based off of your 12% of people in your organization being women. And now, what does that timeline look like for implementing this program as well as the long-term plan, which we'll get into in a moment? Well, immediately we want to start by beginning outreach for the summit and also the Girls Who Invest program. And by the middle of this year, we want to advertise that summit to employees as well as finalize benefit plans and join that Girls Who Invest, being able to recruit from this organization to ensure that you have very good new employees. And then finally, by the end of the year, we want to begin enrolling that family benefits plan to ensure that your employees get the help that they need.
Now, going into the following 4 years of our 5-year plan, obviously every year we want to rerun this summit with you guys to be able to get more women exposed as the company's women employee grow. Year 4, we believe you should take this summit global, maybe to your Beijing office, and potentially turn it into a company retreat for the company's women to really gain those skills and gain those connections more broadly. At year 5, we would love to reassess the goals to see if this plan has currently met them and see if your current boutiques you invest in are aligned with this new composition of employees and also the new customers you'll be gaining within that wealth transfer base. In these original 2 years, however, we do want to assess that these family plan benefits are working and still make sense in accordance, and potentially increase the contribution to Girls Who Invest and that partnership as a sponsor. Now, a global example of a company doing this is out of Australia. First Sentier Investor is one of the largest wealth management companies in Australia and are a certified B Corp, and they foster DEI through 4 pillars, being belonging, alignment, engagement, and equity, all targeting to level the field and increase inclusion across their firm, and they're targeting getting 40% of women into senior leadership positions. So what do we believe success looks like for MackenSEE? We want to target 50% of leadership roles being women to truly level the playing field, and that compared to a B Corp's 40% target, even if you fall short, you're still doing better than people who claim to be the leaders in the industry in terms of equity. As far as belonging goes, using this 4-pillar model, we want to reduce that annual turnover percent by 1% every year, and engagement, increasing volume application through this Girls Who Invest program to be able to generate more interest for MackenSEE and grow that base of women who are financial managers at MackenSEE. And then alignment. Are these plans in alignment with MackenSEE's commitment to increasing the accessibility of asset managers, not only for your customers, but also to potential different compositions of your funds, as we've previously addressed, in terms of whether or not your new employees and your new customers are actually interested in what you previously have invested in historically.
Now, with any plan, there are risks, but we have some ways to mitigate them. One being that the family care program has a lower impact than we intend, where maybe that it doesn't affect retention rate and absenteeism rates as much as we would like them to. And so we would like to then review benefits that are provided, ensure that they truly align with what is needed by your employees, specifically and especially women. And in addition to that risk, there also may be logistical challenges with a summit like this. Now, being in Toronto, it's a wonderful city to host, but getting people from all the way in Beijing, from London, can be a very difficult process and expensive. So another option is if people are unable to attend a summit such as this, broadcast the the workshops live through a video conference software like Zoom or Microsoft Teams. And finally, from girls, from the program that we want to partner with for providing more students, there might be a lack of engagement. But being a worldwide organization with about 200 universities, we believe that there will be a significantly larger application pool and students who are very motivated to become part of asset managers like yourself.
So let's take a look back at what we've accomplished here today. Your company has a need to address the gender inequality issues within the company as these markets are changing. And your company has done a great job in the past, but we need to expand on these programs and create new programs to ensure that your company is a leader in the asset management world in terms of gender diversity. We believe with our Rise and Thrive program, by creating a summit for women to connect with one another, an expansion of the EFAP program to ensure that women's needs are met within the company so that they can focus their energy on their career, and by partnering with Girls Who Invest to recruit new talent, that we will be able to together accomplish a company that is more diverse within gender and is thus meeting the market demands within Canada. Thank you so much for your time, and we are now open for questions.
So thank you. As you saw, the presentation is up. So now we will begin a 10-minute Q&A period. Friendly reminder, it's 10 minutes, which I said. So whenever you're ready, judges, I'll start.
I'll go first if you don't mind. Sure. You only showed one slide of the Girl Who Invest partnership. What it is exactly that MackenSEE will do with this kind of partnership? Is this only, I'll let you answer and then see what it is.
Yeah, so you have a variety of options depending on how committed you want to believe. At the base option, it would just be a financial contribution, but they also have summer intensive workshops and programs that they do in partnership, and we believe it would be useful to do one of those partnerships with them, providing internship access through Girls Who Invest.
And in addition to those types of programs, it also represents a recruiting pool for your company. There are plenty of motivated students who would love to work for an asset manager such as yourself, and it can provide talent who's also going to stay in these types of roles and hopefully then provide higher retention rates for your organization.
And thank you. And what do you mean by first and family? Just to make sure I understand it well. No member of Power Financial are part leader of a group.
Yes, so no members of Power Financial, all of the subsidiary investment funds are currently supporters of Girls Who Invest, so you would be the leader of Power Financial in getting into this group.
We're talking about 200 universities. Do you know where they are located?
I believe they're mostly located within the United States. They did not explicitly list them.
Thank you.
On the same topic, maybe Alexander, what are the levels of sponsorship and what would be the cost of partnering with Girls Who Invest per year?
So while I don't have the exact financials off the top of my head, perhaps one of my colleagues may be able to better answer that part of the question. The goal with addressing Girls Who Invest is making sure that those about 26% of students who are finance students, who are women, are able to find a place to work through different levels of different companies. So with this cost that you may incur, you are not only providing more women the opportunity, to find a career, but you are also opening up your own pool of employees by having these programs that may lead to internships with your company, meaning that your costs now may create value for you later as these smart and dedicated students are funneled into your company through this partnership.
And as for costs, there are a few options. One could be a scholarship program where you create a contest of some type to provide, for example, $5,000. You could also do a contribution for Girls Who Invest, so for workshops, so that you can enable them to run more workshops to help them learn more. And that might cost additionally about a $5,000 investment.
And to your knowledge, there are no Canadian universities currently participating in the program?
We cannot speak to that with 100% assurance.
Thank you for
to a different part of the presentation. I'm curious if you can expand a little bit on the summit. Who qualifies? Is it only internal employees? And you've spoken about scalability of the summit, but can you expand more, like, aside from retention, what would be ways to measure success out of the summit?
So the focus will be about the 150 women who work with MackenSEE. However, seeing as it will be located in Toronto and specifically at a building owned by the Ivy School, we will be able to invite those Ivy Business School students who MackenSEE is already partnered with in order to improve their not only academic pursuits, but also their career progression. Now, in terms of scaling it and being able to expand it, one of the brilliant opportunities we have in our risk and mitigation with having a video conference software broadcasting these events, you can open it up to even more individuals who may be interested. This could be expanding to other members of the Power Financial family and making sure that everyone from all 16 specific MackenSEE boutiques are able to attend, but also being able to invite other companies who will be able to follow the leadership of MackenSEE through this summit and expand their own portfolios and their own programs to support women in the workplace.
This also gives women the ability to talk with other boutiques within your portfolio, where if they're less satisfied in one portion of your company, for example, in one of the equities boutiques, they can then move to a different equities boutique or get involved with other opportunities that may come up when speaking to other women within the organization.
Okay. And lastly, on the summit, how are you planning to integrate learnings from workshops, or is there any feedback loop that you guys thought of to
Integrate it for the employees or for the college students?
Yeah, let's say the summit is like on a day. How does this live throughout the year? How is this, it's a big investment, so how employees are benefiting from learnings from workshops?
So as we mentioned, especially with an issue such as tall poppy syndrome, there are so many issues that are not addressed because they are not acknowledged. And through this acknowledgement of events, it's the exact same way as when you, for example, go see a movie and then you tell your friends about what you learned about the movie, what the meaning of it was. Through this word of mouth, by going back to their offices and spreading what they learned, you'll be able to raise awareness of issues and see those problems addressed, and additionally put a little bit of extra pressure on managers or perhaps some of the male employees who may not see the benefit or even acknowledge the issues that are being faced by the women in their peer group.
Thanks for the presentation and the walkthrough. Can we go back to your assessment slide where you made your decision on the approach? I want to focus on the rotational program.
Yeah.
Rotational program versus the EAP, the only difference I saw was the cost base. So if we put the cost impact aside, what were some of the benefits of the rotational program?
So we looked into a rotational, like, early career program for your company, which is something that's very common amongst many companies, to be able to foster a big skill set amongst new employees. We unfortunately were not able to find the financial backing behind being able to do this, both in terms of your company's financials, the budget allocation you might have to sending a couple of early career workers into a 1 to 2 year program where they're traveling around the world. There's a lot of accommodations being made there. Since it's a learning intensive program, it's a huge investment into individuals, and we were not able to necessarily find the financial backing for that, and then also sources from other companies that had done that showing a significant ROI on that. However, we do believe that a rotational program would be very beneficial. We just weren't able to necessarily justify it. But we do believe that the family assistance program, being able to provide a more robust program for existing employees to support them in their needs, would help a lot with retention and preventing turnover to ensure that employees are well taken care of.
So let's talk about that one for a second. When we look at, and it's great, like employee assistance programs are very beneficial, but nothing was called out specifically about what the benefits were for women. So
Yeah.
do you have some examples from TELUS Health that are showcased specifically for women?
For sure. So I think the assumption that our team is making, which is a well-known issue for women in corporate settings, obviously women need support, they need mentorship, they need promotion, and childcare is a huge part of that, but I think that some of the issues for women balancing a corporate lifestyle and a family lifestyle that is often overlooked is the amount of burden that is often on matriarchs in a family in terms of family care, caring for medical expenses for their children, caring for their parents, caring for their partner's parents. And so those were some programs that we saw specifically in TELUS and saw evidence of those being helpful, specifically for women. It's mostly that the burden of things like elder care, parenting, lands on women, and these services are specifically helping employees with that. So we see the connection there in terms of helping female employees.
And unfortunately, that was the last question. We only have 36 seconds left. So thank you very much.
See you
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Hayden. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Sarah. Good morning. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Lisa. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Sure. So I'll give the introduction that I have to give. Hi everybody, my name is Ethan, as the judges know by now. I will be your timekeeper for the day, so I'll show you the warning signs at the appropriate. So there's a 30 seconds, looks like this. There's a 2 minute, 5 minute, and a 10 minute. Once it's 10 seconds left, I'll count down with my hands. I'll make sure I have eye contact with all of you before I put down the cards in the audience as well. After 10 seconds, I'll say stop, and you must stop talking. Afterwards, a 10-minute Q&A period will follow. I would like to remind you all that the teams must present for a minimum of 15 minutes, and all team members must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A. Audience members, we ask that you please place your phones on silent mode and remain seated in the room for the duration of the full presentation and Q&A period. I will now let the judges introduce themselves, and once they're done and you say your first words, I'll begin the timer.
Hello, my name is Guriel Polin. I'm a Senior Manager Business Strategy for IG Wealth Management.
I'm Daniel Touf. I have a leadership role within distribution in IG Wealth.
Good morning. I'm Laurence Marcolani. I'm the marketing manager for Brooks Running Canada.
Hi, I'm Elisa Psersha, and I'm the head of professional services at Rising HCM.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and today I'm joined with Heather, Krish, and Hayden, and we're very excited to present our recommendations to you all today. So, to start off, I wanted to take a step back and look at the scope of work that was given to us in the case packet. So, to begin, we have our key question, which was how can MackenSEE reach its parity within its employee base? And we broke this up into some key tasks, the first of which being how can we create a 5-year implementation timeline to reach this goal? Second, how can we recruit new employees to come into the company? And then third and finally, how can we help mentor these existing employees that are already within the company? And we also have some key criteria that we listed out, the first of which making sure that our solutions were going to be cost effective and any dollar spent was going to be effective for MackenSEE to reach its goals. Second, making sure that these items were going to be quickly actionable. Third, we wanted to make sure that these solutions were going to be able to cascade down to those boutiques that were in the firm. And then finally, we wanted these to all be measurable. So now that we've covered that, I wanted to look at the situation that we are currently in with MackenSEE. So we see that women occupy 12% of investment roles, and this is actually lower than the global average of 12.5%. So we see that there is some room for improvement within that. And then we also see that women are very vital for firm growth. Women play a big role in helping to increase the success of these firms that MackenSEE is operating in, and we believe that they're very vital for the success moving forward. So the key takeaway here is really that firms have to rethink their recruitment processes so that they can get more women in the door and help women feel more supported, and this is then in turn going to help the overall success of the company. However, we see that MackenSEE Investments is already doing a lot to help women. They already have a lot of different initiatives, not just that exist within the company already, but also initiatives where they partner with universities. They're also signed with the United Nations and helping to support women through that, and it's something that they prioritize. But we also see that they're still facing a lot of issues within the company that we hope to address today. So we see that there's not as many female role models as we would like. There's a lot of women that are coming up from the bottom that are being recruited into these positions within the firm, but they don't have as many role models as the firm would like to see. And there's a lot of mentorship and coaching opportunities, but there's a lack of sponsorship within that. So women are having these connections with other women in the firm, but then they're not having the advocacy and the sponsorship that they need to then be able to move up within the firm. So the takeaway here is that there's a disconnect between MackenSEE's current initiatives and their goals for the future moving forward. So this brings us to what we think is really at the heart of the issue of this problem, which is that women believe that the asset management business model was built by men for men. So we see that there's a lack of visibility. There's females that are within the firm, but they're not really being able to connect with the younger females, and they're not able to see that there's women that are currently in these roles that are being really successful. And then we also see that there's a lack of connection. So women are over-mentored, but they are under-sponsored. So they're getting these mentorship opportunities, but then they're not having the advocacy and the sponsorship that they need to be able to have those promotions and further advancements throughout the company. This brings us to a cultural block, where women are scared to join this asset management industry because they see it as being run by men. And they're not seeing women in the roles that they can't really envision themselves being in the future. So it's kind of intimidating for them. So we think the main problem here is really just this culture shift, and MackenSEE Investments must induce a culture shift to help improve the visibility and the connection between the new employees, the new women that will be coming into this firm versus the existing ones already. So when we were looking at some potential solutions for this problem, we looked at our key criteria that I hit on earlier, and we'd be happy to go further into this in the Q&A section. But we have our executive summary up here, and to answer our key question as well as our key tasks, we've come up with 2 strategies. The first one being MackenSEE, and the second being MackenDO. And we believe that this is going to have a very positive impact on MackenSEE as a whole. I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Krish to talk a little bit more about our strategies.
Thank you, Sarah. So to start off, I want to kind of start off with our first strategy, which is MackenSEE. So to kind of increase our visibility with our women. So currently we've seen that not only MackenSEE, but even just the wealth and asset management industry as a whole is seeing this continuous cycle of redundancy. One of our big issues is not having a lot of women in leadership roles. What does this lead to? Not having a lot of women in leadership management roles leads to women who are not in the industry yet, not having a variety of role models to look up at. When we don't have role models, this continues to reinforce that idea of the entire industry being dominated by males. This cultural shift is what we need to focus on working on changing. When we have this cultural shift of women feeling that males are dominating this industry, it leads to fewer women applying for these roles and leads to a lower amount of recruitment efforts. So from the case packet we saw, and it was given to us, that the lack of female leadership fund management results in younger females not having role models to aspire to and reinforces the image of the finance industry being male dominated. So how can we change this? So to correct this cycle, we can look at it in a 2-fold approach, which is MackenSEE's internal operations and their external. Currently, we've seen that MackenSEE, through their initiative of MackenSEE Together, is utilizing a variety of different initiatives to continue building on this issue that they have. But what do we see internally? We see that the turnover rate for females is much higher than males. There's a 43% compared to only 29% for males. So how can we target and retain our female employees within MackenSEE so that they can continue progressing and going to those leadership roles, which are so vital for the women that are looking to enter into the industry? On the second aspect, we see our external. MackenSEE has a variety of initiatives that are in place for recruitment processes. But at the same time, as Sarah mentioned before, Canada's percentage of women that are in the investment industry is 12%, which is 0.5% lower than the global. So what we see is that to focus on shifting that cultural mindset, we need to start off by focusing on our internal approach. In order for the external approach to be as beneficial as it can be, we need to have more women in our management positions. We need to have more internal focused initiatives to have women progress through MackenSEE. That way we can have our external be as effective as it can be. So through this, we can have more women as role models, and we can start to work on reinforcing that the male-dominated field mindset doesn't have to be the case now. Now I'll give it off to Hayden to talk more about a recommendation.
Thank you, Krish. So now, how exactly can we empower our women internally? Well, we recommend implementing a reverse mentorship program. Well, what does this look like? We will pair younger junior women associates with higher senior professionals in the field. They'll have quarterly meetings throughout the junior and later senior partnerships, so they really get to know each other and bond on a deeper level than just manager and associate. They'll have feedback mechanisms both ways so that the senior partners are also hearing what the younger associates are looking for. They will also be able to assess the relationship's impact on both parties so they can see how exactly they can continue to contribute to the company going forward. And they'll be establishing objectives for the reverse mentorship outcome so we know and monitor this program to get exactly what we want out of it going forward. The benefits of this is that our senior leadership is gaining a fresh insights from our younger professionals. It's enhancing leadership communication, really increasing that sponsorship and connection that we're looking for from our senior leaders. And it's promoting an understanding of an evolving workplace dynamic Again, reinforcing that it is not a male-controlled field and that the women in our positions here are helping out the younger associates. So the key takeaway here is that we're really trying to facilitate this interaction between lower level women and the senior management. So don't just take it from us. We know this works through a case study founded by Wellington Management, where they did the same exact thing through this reverse mentorship program. They were able to expand the program to their EMEA offices, and they even improved their policy and engagement initiatives. Not only that, but companies with these reverse manager programs are 27% more likely to have women leadership roles, which is a benefit that we will expect to see as well. And 63% of executives participating in this program said that increased their understanding of gender biases within the industry. So now that we have tackled that, we also want to tackle the high turnover rate internally. We know that there are a couple benefits that we are seeing within MackenSEE's current operations, like the PTO and the 4-week bank of paternal leave. However, what we're also seeing is that 73% of new mothers consider leaving their jobs after coming back from parental leave, and 30% actually quit after 18 months, which is a huge problem that we have to address. And we want to do that through 3 different approaches. One being phased returns to the offices so that women can transition back into their workplace and feel like they are supported. We also want to implement re-entry programs where we train them, coach them, and help them feel like they are coming back into an environment that wants them and helps them get back into the workplace flow. Not only that, but we want to offer remote work options for these women so they can stay home whenever needed to take care of their children. But also, again, don't just take it from us. We have seen this work in the market. As you can see, women feel more pressure than men to choose between career advancements as stated in the case packet. So by reducing this re-entry barrier that they have from maternity leave, it's helping encourage them to come back into the workforce and feel like they are supported. MackenSEE also did a very similar reboarding process where they saw reduced attrition by 20% and had 1,100 participants within the company. And this brings us back to our cycle where we're tackling these 2 key issues. By implementing this gross connection, and it will help reduce the turnover rates, which is the largest issue that we've been facing to date. So as you can see here, we are addressing this 3rd pre-task through reverse mentorship and re-entry benefits and hitting on all of our key criteria. I'll now pass it back to Krish to get us into our second strategy.
Cool, so MackenDO. So we've talked about the internal aspect, which was getting the leadership positions. Now that we have this and we have women that have role models, how do we recruit them? So there's a couple of different ways. 1 is virtual conferences, and 2 is our university partnerships. So as we've seen that we've targeted internal, now let's go into the external. So how can we get more women to apply, and we can get more women to continue building upon these roles and stay in our company? So we looked at a couple of different ways to target and be more and have better recruitment efforts. A couple of different ways include social media, conferences, universities, including scholarships and reports. Now, through our analysis, we looked at a couple of different criteria, which was, is this our industry standard? Can this be replicable to our 16 boutiques we needed? That's very important, that it cascades down to the 16 boutiques, and is it cost effective? And we saw that conferences and universities are our best option to do this. Social media was a close second, but while it does have a high reach potential, it lacks that credibility, and it can be difficult to accurately target the people that we want to target. On the other hand, scholarships and reports just don't lead to the same amount of recruitment efforts that something like targeting our university programs and our virtual conferences can do.
So what exactly does this look like? So we first want to implement virtual conferences, where these are week-long video conferences throughout the year that are led by women in our current leadership roles. They'll be going over topics like leadership development and career strategies for women within asset management, and they will even be able to network through breakout rooms with the different women that we are having on these conferences. The benefits of this is that they'll have direct visibility of the women leaders at MackenSEE, and they'll have access to internship roles through this unique connection that they have with the firm. Aside from that, we also want to do university partnerships, very similar to what we're doing with Ivy right now. Through the University of Toronto with their Initiative for Women in Business organization, and McGill University through the Women's Networking Group, where we implement the same tactics that we've seen amazing growth with in Ivy University. But we've also seen success with these programs in the industry as well, as Boston Consulting Group implemented the same exact video conferencing, and which provided opportunity to apply for internships for these students, increased the visibility of women in their leadership roles, and increased engagement for female applicants, improving how many applicants we are having to our company. Not only that, but we have seen success with our own Ivy Business School conference program, where we see this partnership with the Women in Assets Managers program, which has created a pipeline and is a cornerstone for entering women into the field. So with that, we are tackling our last two parts of the cycle through our conferences and university partnerships, and ultimately increasing applications for entry into asset management. Now, the last part of our task that we wanted to cover today is our implementation timeline over 5 years. But what we really want to get started on right now is reaching out to those universities, developing a reverse mentorship program, and setting up those conferences. We'd be happy to go over a couple more action steps in the Q&A. So that leads us to our overall question of how we can eventually reach parity within the employer base. And we are doing that by answering all three of our key tasks through implementation timeline of our 5 years and hosting conference in partnership with educational organizations. This will be cost effective, actionable, cascading down to our boutiques and replicable, and measurable going forward. I will now pass it off to Heather to go over our financials.
Thank you, Hayden. So first, moving into our costs, as you can see, we're at a budget of around 202,000 Canadian dollars within this first year. Now, this is split pretty evenly between our external strategies as well as our internal benefits, but I want to highlight the highest cost here is going to be that reverse mentorship program, because we really want to build out this program and make sure it's strong. This is where we see a lot of opportunity to get our higher management people associated with our lower associates that are newer to the firm, and that's really going to have a waterfall effect on the rest of our initiatives. Moving into our revenues, we expect our total revenue in year 1 to be around 800,000 Canadian dollars. As you can see, revenues don't start in year 0. Year 0, we are focused on building out these new programs and launching them and gaining those new participants. And then from year 1 onwards, we can see a great return on our investment. Another important thing to highlight is that women representation in our workforce is going to greatly increase, and by that 4th or 5th year, we expect it to be almost 50-50 between women representation in our workforce and male representation in our workforce. In addition, we were able to calculate our revenues based off of the new clients we expected to see, based off of the number of new women working in our workforce and that retention rate as well. And that's how we got our revenue. Happy to go more over it in the Q&A as well. So we wanted to measure our success based off of 3 KPIs. First, we wanted to see a total 18% decrease in our turnover rate. This was a really big highlight in the case because we know that the turnover rate, specifically with women in these fields, is very high, around 43%, so decreasing at 18% can have a huge impact on our firm and women representation in this field. Second, we wanted that 50% female representation by year 5. And lastly, we wanted a 3 times ROI on our initial investment with the cost to implement these different programs and strategies. So I want to draw your attention back to our main point. Why are we implementing these strategies? Well, I want to share a personal story. This summer, I interned at a company, and it was a class of 30 interns. However, only 5 of us were actually women. It was difficult for me to connect with my other male interns, as it normally would be, but the number one thing that made me excited to go to work every single day was my manager, Alexa. She was the senior manager on our project, and she inspired me every day. I looked forward to working side by side with her and having conversations with her, and no matter who I talked to in the office, they always knew who I was talking about. Alexa was very accomplished and very successful. She helped me see a future for myself at this job and really inspired me to keep working and accept a return offer. But the point I want to make is that in order to increase women representation at our jobs, we need to make those role models for our current employees. We need to have sponsorship and mentorship and really encourage women that they belong in the workforce here just as the men do. And that is why our strategies target these goals specifically. We'll now be happy to open the floor for any questions.
So of course that concludes your presentation. So now we're going to commence a 10-minute question and answer period.
I'll start.
Very good presentation. Thank you, Joey. Thank you.
Yeah.
From one of your earlier slides, there was someone we skipped over, but all possible solutions. It was
Yeah.
a busy slide, and you said we could talk about it during our question period. So if you could go back to the.
Of course.
That's it. That's the one. And let's say. Looking for one specific here. There's not much here on remunerating behaviors from managers who encourage female hires. Is that something that you thought about maybe adding to the list? And if you did not, why not?
Well, one of the advantages of MackenSEE right now is that we already actually have a much higher percent of women in our company than other companies do. So that is something that we really want to leverage going forward, and we didn't see that as large of an issue when it comes to actually empowering the women internally and recruiting them externally. So we didn't see that as large of an issue for, say, some other asset management firms in the industry, and we actually saw that as an opportunity for us going forward.
I want to know more about the cost that you put on reverse mentorship, because I just want to know why it's that much expensive if we let's say we just connect two people in the organization, just have not a quick chat, but you see what I'm going at.
Yes,
just,
definitely. Yeah, can you go back to that cost that you were just on, Sarah? Oh, this is. Yes. Okay, so as you can see, this top portion right here is going to be the cost for our reverse mentorship program. The largest cost is coming from our program management, because again, we want this program to be neatly ran. We want to make sure there's someone that's going to be organizing all the recruitment events and also keeping up with the communication between our higher level and lower level employees. Again, this reverse mentorship program is going to be working with our senior managers, and they're very busy people. They don't have time to always keep up with the lower level people, and so we want to implement someone to keep control of that and manage all of that and manage the communication.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. I'm curious to know a little bit more about, I think it's MackenSEE or MackenDO, one of the two group. Have you thought about how leadership is going to put this change in motion? How are we thought about a communicational plan? How are we want to employees to experience the change within the current culture workforce?
Should we go to the timeline?
Yes, but I also wanted to start that change management is definitely going to be an aspect of our recommendation going forward. As we can see, MackenSEE already has a huge initiative for women internally, so we do believe that the women in senior leadership positions will wholeheartedly want to accept this program going forward. But also, as associated with the costs in our strategies, we are going to implement some sort of someone that can help facilitate these processes and really make sure that everything is implemented on time. For the focus of this, we wanted to talk more about the implementation and what it looks like, but we do definitely believe with where MackenSEE's at right now as an industry leader with hiring women, this will be a very easy task to implement within the company.
Yeah, and just to add on to that a little bit, we know that we're not, the first year, we're really focused on developing these programs, making sure everyone's on board. Our costs include training costs, and we really want to make sure not only are we focusing on training our employees, but we also want to train the people that are going to be running these programs. And that way, once we get these programs out and started, everyone is onboarded and understand how they work.
Question around the reverse mentorship. Is it just female senior leadership involved, or is it all senior leadership that's participating in that?
No, we would like to have all senior leadership involved in this, particularly because right now we have our main focus is the newer women that are joining our firm. So when we have these newer women joining the firm, even if they're paired with a male senior member, the mentorship that they get from them and the connections they build can help them feel more comfortable within the firm itself. On the flip side, the male senior leadership can also see the struggles that the female employee are facing, and that can help reduce and trickle down change that we're looking to see at MackenSEE.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, one of the biggest cultural implications we saw were that sometimes women have difficulty connecting with males in a way that men may connect with other men. And by working with senior managers that might be men over women, these women employees can learn to feel more comfortable and create a connection with them and there's more effort put into creating that connection for them, and they have aid to do that.
Is there a time commitment that you've thought about for senior leadership? Because there's a heavy lift, I think, with the reverse mentorship program as well as some of the other activities. Is this something that was thought about in terms of their time?
Can you give the case study, please? There definitely will be an aspect of time commitment for this, but we do believe the payoff is well worth this time commitment from our senior leaders. As we can see, Wellington Management has seen success with this program, and we kind of want to model it similarly. It will not be an extensive, take too much time out of their day type of process, but it is exactly what we think MackenSEE needs to help empower women internally and bridge the gap between our senior leaders and our associates. So while there will be maybe 30 minutes to an hour of their week through coffee chats, meetings, whatever it is, we do think it is well worth it for what MackenSEE is looking for at this time.
And with the people that are running the program, they will be in charge of communicating with the senior professionals and ensuring that those senior professionals are prepared to handle this addition for the current year. If they're not, they can communicate that with them. And the managers will help decide who gets paired with who and who is able to get paired with who.
You still have time, but if you'd like to end the Q, that's no problem.
I would like, maybe I have one question about the re-entry program. I just want to know more because you go over it pretty fast. Just make sure I completely understand what you're trying to do with that.
Of course. So with the re-entry program, one thing that we see is that once women leave for a maternity leave, they tend to take a longer time to come back than men. Usually women will take 6 months extra than men, and so to be able to bring them back in a more smooth manner, that's what the re-entry program is for. So not only just the first child, but if women do tend to have a second or third child, this starts to build a resistance to coming back into the workforce, especially in the full force of swings that they used to be before. So the re-entry program has a couple of different benefits to this. So one is to kind of have a more customizable timeline for them. So rather than coming back and working 40, 50 hours a week, they can start off with 20 hours depending on what their targeted plan is. And the second aspect is having more specially accumulated performance evaluations. So obviously if they're not working the same amount as the other group, we need to make sure that their evaluations and their performance evaluations are more geared towards their particular situation. So those are the two kind of aspects of the re-entry program.
And so can you go to the financials for a second? I want to show you that our re-entry program also has two main financial impacts. First, as you can see, the re-entry benefits, it's going to help us not only recruit and hire new women, and it's only 2 women, so this isn't like the hugest thing for like recruiting new women. Again, all of our programs are going to be consistently recruiting, but the biggest thing is that it's actually going to help us retain them and decrease our turnover rate.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yes, Q&A period over. Thank you very much. This concludes this presentation. I'll ask everybody, of course, but the judges to leave the room. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. I'm Teddy.
Nice to meet you. Peter. Duncan. Nice to meet you. Chloe.
Nice to meet you.
Very good. So just the same as before, I'll go through my speech. Hi everybody, my name is Ethan. I'm sure you realize this by now. I'll be your timekeeper for the day. So I'm going to show you guys warning signs for times. There's 10, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds. Please make sure you all look at me when I do it. I won't put it down until I get all of your eye contact. When there's 10 seconds left, I'll count down my hands, and then I'll say stop. Then you must immediately stop. After the 10 minutes, there's going to be, after the 10 seconds, there'll be a 10-minute Q&A period, which you guys are all, this is done for you. I'd like to remind you all that the teams must present for a minimum of 15 minutes, and all team members must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A period. And audience members, once again, we ask that you please place your phones on silent mode and remain seated in the room for the duration of the full presentation and Q&A period. I'll let the judges introduce themselves. Once they're done and you say your first words, I will begin my timer.
Good afternoon. My name is Gabriel Polden. I'm a senior manager for business strategy at IG Wealth Management. So nice to meet you.
All right, Daniel Plouffe. I have a leadership position within distribution of IG Wealth.
Hi everyone, my name is Laurence Marcolani. I'm the marketing manager for Brooks Strategy Canada.
Hi everyone, my name is Elisa Pasersha and I'm the head of professional services at Rising HCM.
Nice to meet you all. Well, hello, bonjour. Nous sommes, we are Mountaineer Consulting Group, and today we're going to pitch the Nurture a Better Future plan. So first, allow me to introduce the team. We have Peter, our in-house finance specialist, Duncan, and in-house marketing specialist, Chloe, and myself, Theodore. Now, before we get into the pitch, I want to tell you guys a story. This story is about Marisha. She lives here in Montreal, and she's working in the finance industry. And it's been about 8 years. She's really ambitious. She loves her work. And she's thinking about promotion up into the company. But there's one thing that she's always wanted, and that's to start a family. So with our plan, Nurture a Better Future, we're going to go over an overview of our strategy, and then look at an analysis of MackenSEE investment, go over our recommendation and forecasting, which will include an implementation timeline, critical success factors, and cost projections. So first, the mission statement of MackenSEE Investment is they aim to build an unshakable partnership with advisors who in turn build unshakable relations with investors. And here the key is that it's a relation-based industry about trust and trusting your finances for investing. And the key questions we looked at, first, how can MackenSEE capitalize on the upcoming wealth transfer expected by 2028? And second, how can MackenSEE retain women employees to encourage and help grow their careers in key leadership positions in the company? And our two recommendations address these questions. First, we recommend that MackenSEE Investment strategically recruit women finance professionals from outside of Canada to secure top-level women leadership and portfolio management. And then the next part, which is about retaining women employees, we aim to establish a newborn and child daycare in office to support new employee families and help bridge that gap between managing your family and managing your career and your work. So I'm going to pass it over to Chloe to go over the analysis of the industry.
So it's really important to understand what our industry is doing when it comes to retaining women in our workforce. So first, it would be setting diversity goals. We really want to understand what we need to do and what we want to do to make sure these women are staying. Some of the ones that we came up with for this plan would be the women turnover rate, decreasing that as much as we can, ensuring that they have a work-life balance where they feel happy and healthy, and then employee satisfaction, just making sure they come to work happy every day and leave ready to come back for the next day. Another important thing is flexible work arrangements. So having your paid time off, especially with paid parental leave, things happen and they need to be able to be there for their family, their kids, their well-being, whatever that may be, and then childcare support. The next being a supportive network. So supportive network of women within the company, some peer networking groups on the more professional side and also more casual side, because relationships really run a business as well. So having more of a casual community for these women. And then public efforts, just to show everyone that we are supporting women in the finance industry, and signing pledges as the 100 Women in Finance that I'll get into a little bit in a second. And then when women do leave the company, doing some exit interviews to figure out what we could have done better. The investment professional turnover rate is 43% for women and 29% for male. We just want to even that out as much as we can, bringing that back down for women. And then 77% of mothers take maternity leave longer than 6 months. Leaving for that long can make people feel behind or not as up to date than their counterparts, and just making sure that when they jump right back into it, we can close that gap. Looking at some competitors that have been successful in having a high women representation in their company, Osake, they have pledged to interview at least one woman for every open position, just ensuring that they have some representation and they are given a fair shot. LGIM, their leadership is 50-50 for men to women, just looking in to see that all men and women are represented equally in leadership positions. And Cardica Management is majority women-owned and women-led. So one of the third-party that we could go through for recruiting women is this company called Fairy Godbox. It aims to acquire women leaders through enticing job offers. So it's a platform very similar to LinkedIn, where you can post your job listings, and it's all women that join this platform. So you can really get your name out to a bunch of women in the field. And then the 100 Women in Finance. It is a global organization working to empower women in the finance industry. They do corporate sponsors, so you can sponsor and get your name on the website to get your name out there to all the people that are part of this organization. And they also do job fairs, so you can talk to a lot of the women within the company, see what they're looking for as well.
Next, we have our recommendations. So how does this all fit together? So our two broad recommendations, our first one being global talent recruitment. So we are going to push, like Teddy said, not just to look inside Canada, but emphasize looking outside of Canada. So maybe some markets where the global wealth transfer or the great wealth transfer that's happening might not be as strong in the direction of falling into women's hands. We can take those talented women asset managers and portfolio managers and give them a more enticing market, right? Show them that there is a lot more growth potential at a company like MackenSEE that has offices globally, but particularly right in Canada and the US, and can really take advantage of kind of this once-in-a-generation wealth transfer to women. And so along with this, right, we want to be able to promote a pro-women culture to show that this is kind of our thing. We're going to own it. This is our big bet as a company on this new generation of wealth going to women, and maybe women of the boomer generation that are inheriting it from a deceased spouse as well. And along with this, right, this might be in the short term, immediately getting that talent so that we can build for the 5-year plan and get ready for that 2028 deadline of the transfer of wealth. We also want to continue the MackenSEE Together initiative, and we think with more leadership talent and positions poached from around the world, that'll make MackenSEE a more enticing company to, particularly for young women, to look at and try to gain mentorship and sponsorship and things of that nature. Going off of that, in order to increase that women retention that Chloe was talking about, we are going to be starting what we are calling a Nurture a Better Future plan, right? So we are deciding to partner with Bright Horizons Daycare, which we will get into a little bit more later, to roll out daycare and nursery services for employees. We think that this will basically make family and work a little bit more vertically integrated, if you will, and hopefully our goal is to make it more seamless for all of our employees to have that work-life balance. And we're going to do this by repurposing vacant office space. As you all know, commercial real estate right now is not at its strongest point, and so we think this is a great way to use company resources that might not be being used right now. And once again, promoting that MackenSEE Together initiative on the younger side, combining that with, we can use the daycare to say, okay, we're going to watch your kids. You can take time dedicated towards that mentorship inside the company or outside the company, and also sponsorship events as well. This all makes it much more seamless and easier. So, we think it's a worthy investment, right? Because investing in women as the future of asset management and transfer of wealth is mutually beneficial for society and the company, right? So we're going to partner with global headhunting firms, emphasizing this once-in-a-generation opportunity. And with that, because we believe in this opportunity so much, we want to offer industry-leading compensation packages and benefits. So as of right now, I know the numbers were 40 weeks, I believe, for paid maternity leave between the two spouses. We would like to up that to about 50 weeks or so, just to stay ahead of industry leaders. Implement HR programs to explain the initiative to current employees, right? We need to make sure that everybody is on board and explain to them that this is beneficial not only for society and the company and making sure that things are more equitable, but it's also beneficial for from a utilitarian approach, right? Benefiting the entire company, and ultimately this is where the new market is. And lastly, a few metrics that we want to have. Aim to reach 35% women globally at the firm by 2028, and a 40% women mandate for interns and new hires is our goal. And as you can see here, the wealth controlled by women is effectively almost exponentially rising. As you can see in 2030, it's going to be around, I believe that's $30 trillion. So we very much so believe that this is the future, and this is a big bet that MackenSEE can be confident in. So just to reiterate, 80% of Canadian women change their financial advisors within 1 year of the death of their partner, and that's where we say that this is our opportunity. We can be that 80%, and so if we can grab a big market share of that 80% change in financial advisors, this can be a significant new revenue generating area of our business. And after acquiring these new asset managers from around the world, like I was saying earlier, right, build out, hire, and promote from within using the MackenSEE Together initiatives. And to do that, in order to make sure that those programs are doing well, promote and advertise our progressive financial packages and maternity leave benefits as well. And as you all know, there are many benefits to having a more diverse workplace, right? You can widen your talent pool and have those many different perspectives while enhancing collaboration, improving your staff retention, and that's what people want, right, in this new generation. And so ultimately, that is what our clients want, and so that's what we think we should give them.
So at a glance, implementing a daycare into a corporate setting doesn't make much sense, and I'm here to tell you why it does. So to start, we want to partner with Bright Horizons Daycare. They offer corporate solutions, and they take care of things from zoning to operating day, so it's a very hands-off experience. How this is going to benefit employees: first of all, convenience, being able to bring your kid into work and then work in the office setting, collaborate with your team members, is something you might not be able to do when raising a kid at a young age. Productivity, when you don't have to really worry about your kid and you know they're in a high-end daycare facility, you're able to get more work done, focus on the task at hand. And then retention and recruitment, when you have a daycare facility in a corporate setting, it's a pretty big draw factor, I'd say, for young parents and people starting families, because again, it shortens the gap between family and work, allowing you to do both all at once. And so a bit about Bright Horizons. They have 30 years of experience in the corporate daycare market. I'm not sure how big that is, but 30 years means they're definitely doing something right. Solutions, they're tailored programs, so whatever you guys need, they're able to accommodate for. I know traditional daycare centers, you kind of think of your YMCA, you know, ball pits, this and that. And that's not really what we're looking at here. We want an education-based program and to add value to a daycare center that's not just taking care of my kids. And yeah, that goes back to the high quality care we kind of talk about. This is, at the end of the day, an education as much as it is a daycare. So integrating Bright Horizons in a corporate setting absolutely would help with retention. And one thing I want to talk about a bit too with the company, the turnover rate for females in the investment space is a lot higher than it is for men. And I would like to assume that part of that is because of this family created incentive for women. And with that, this is going to shorten the turnover rate because you're able to have your kid at work and not really have to worry about it. So for a company aspect, having a daycare, while it may seem a bit wild, if done right, it can not only help with turnover, retention, but also productivity within the workplace. Now I'm going to toss it over to Duncan to talk a bit about the financial forecast.
So yeah, to kind of wrap it up, for our headhunting, we calculated based off of the people that we are headhunting, we are assuming a $125,000 salary, and headhunting is, from our research, within the 20 to 30% range of their salary as a fee per employee. So if we were to get 15 asset managers, and also assuming a relocation fee of $75,000, the total cost for those 15 new asset managers to start building out portfolios would be roughly $1.7 million. And we think that this could be a great return on our investment, especially considering the size and scale of MackenSEE, how much this could benefit the company.
So yeah, for the cost to run Bright Horizons Daycare, they do not have listings on their website, but from research on the average cost to open a daycare, it's around $100,000 to $500,000. Again, we want a high-end daycare facility, so we're looking around $350,000 to build one of these centers. For licensing, utilities, and staff, it's going to average around $150,000 a year, and that seems pretty pricey. But again, this is not just a daycare; it's an education facility for your young children. So it would be 4 staff members. There's a ratio of 4 staff members between 0 to 18 months, 1 to 3 years, and then 3 to 5. And you need to allocate about 1 member per demographic there. And we would be paying them a little bit above the average 16-hour or $1 an hour rates, $18 an hour, because again, we want to have high quality education professionals in our daycare facilities. And then to talk a bit about the 5-year implementation timeline, our first initiative is getting global leadership recruitment. So grabbing established financial professionals from other companies and bringing them into MackenSEE Investments to kind of build a leadership foundation in the female financial space. We're looking at 2 years for this. If it takes any longer than 2 years, I'd say that's a failed mission. But if we can get it done in 2 years, go down to task 1C, the internal woman mentoring and sponsoring. This is kind of where you see the evaluation checkpoint here. After 2 years, if we can get this leadership initiative and bring in high value women in investments, then we can incentivize these new leaders as mentors for incoming undergraduates in MackenSEE and the younger generation in the investment space. And then take your attention to the child, newborn, and daycare construction. On average, it takes 1 to 2 years to implement a daycare. Because we're zoning inside our corporate offices, we don't really have to search for a space, and as long as safety guidelines are met, we should be able to quickly start construction. And then task 2B, after construction, provide these daycare services to the MackenSEE employees.
Looking at some critical success factors for the talent acquisition strategy specifically, Duncan mentioned 15 new women leaders, or women hired, but we want to focus on 4 to 8 top level executives hired specifically in the U.S. We think there's a large market where there's over 30% of women CEOs in the finance industry. Next, we're going to look at generous and competitive compensation. and also offer housing relocation offers. I think that's a big thing that can be overlooked when you're moving to a new country. It's important to have a home, especially if you have a family. So we think having that holistic view to hiring is very important. And then not only looking externally, but in the next 2 to 3 years, having these ready-to-go women executives will inspire women working already in MackenSEE Investing. And our goal is to hire at least 2 to 5 internal employees into leadership positions, because we think it's important to acquire these leaders, but to be able to generate it in your own company is vital to the success long-term of any company.
And for the Nurture a Better Future, we wanted to build 16 new at-work daycares for each of the 16 boutique locations. Again, this is a global implementation. With that decrease in parental leave from 77 to 45%, we think if we can get this below 50%, that would be a great achievement. And along with our MackenSEE Together initiatives, we think we can decrease women turnover from 43 to 33% by the year 2027.
So yeah, thank you for listening to our pitch about why we should implement a daycare center inside a corporate office, but also retain women financial professionals. And yeah, we want to help you scale your dreams with MackenSEE Consulting Group. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to head to a 10-minute Q&A.
I can go first.
Sure.
You spoke about opening like daycare facility in the office, right?
Yeah.
But what happened if I told you that most of our employee will need to go back to the office? Like, is there a plan B for? Because I know that, you know, with the pandemic, we were kind of going to the office 1 day a week. Now it's 2 days. Later on, it will be 3. Later on, maybe 4. And I don't think it will go to 5, but I've seen company go to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So have you considered like this thing in the plan?
No
So,
vacant space.
I think I understand your question. Are you saying the
If there's no
employees
place,
are coming back to the there's no space
there's
in the
no
office?
space
Yeah.
because employee are coming back to work and vacant space is getting cut and moving to new office with less space than employee.
So yeah, I mean, it's all dependent on the firm and of course the zoning spacing within the office. However, they do offer other plans that is not just inside the office. You can, it's city dependent and dependent on that, but if there's a relative location close to the office, the Bright Horizons can help with the zoning and landing that land space to then build a daycare. And while it may be a little further than just an elevator ride down, at the same time, you still don't have to worry about your kids while you can work at the office and you know they're just right around the corner.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
and just adding on to that, because it's a great point. Right now we see a lot of vacancies, but what if it's full in the future? But what we're pitching is if you really want to make a fundamental change in this industry and acquire more women, which in turn is looking at the market that there's over 50% of the wealth in Canada is owned by women by 2028, 2030. We're proposing this as a fundamental cultural change, that in each office you have a daycare center so that women can feel empowered to work, but also have that comfort that they can grow their families. So yeah, we'd say it's imperative, and we would highly recommend that you consider that that's not only paying for the lack of office space, but also the lack of revenue acquired by these women in your company. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Great presentation. I'd love to hear more about Marissa. You started off with
Yeah.
the story
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Marissa.
of course.
Working in finance for 8 years in Montreal, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden she disappeared. So is she an internal promotion? Did she become a leader? Did she have a family? So with the daycare she stayed and she's hanging out?
Let's look at her options. Right now, she's working at MackenSEE Investing. And if they roll out this Nurture a Better Future plan, she'll have options. She can either stay at home for a more generous 6 months, paid time off, or if she's really ambitious and she wants to grow her career, grow her project, she has the option to bring her kid in after whatever 2 to 3 months, whatever she's comfortable with, continue her work and kind of alleviate that stress. So Marissa now has options. She doesn't have to feel like she's tied at home and she's worried about who her kids is being raised by, or how he's doing throughout the day, he or she. So I think that's the main story of Marissa, and I'm glad you asked about that because
I was wondering.
Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, we're not promoting the hybrid work from home environment. We're promoting the on-site.
Yes, exactly.
Family work-life balance.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's sustainable long term.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. One question regarding the strategy of recruiting on a global scale. Have you worked out the financial or the logistic for like getting the visa, the sponsorship for people to come in Canada, and even like cultural adaptation to workplace policies or just interaction with people?
Yeah, so I think for us that would go along with our MackenSEE Together initiative, and I think with this, like we said, we wanted to ramp up HR programs within the company to express what we're doing and why we're doing it. And so I think we would take that into the MackenSEE Together program. So not only is it top down, but with new talent coming in, we can make sure that they feel welcome as well. Does that answer your question?
You were asking a bit about visa costs. We
Yeah.
didn't look into that, but that's why we kind of heavily emphasized US hiring, because there's a lot closer relations, not as much culture shock as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good job, guys. Okay. Questions around the daycare first. Is there a cost to the employee?
Yeah, so there is. If we go to the appendix slides, it's one of the first ones there. This is kind of what I was touching on, or one more. One more.
This?
One more. Yeah, right back up there. So, as you can see, there's the cost of building, the staffing cost, which is majority of the annual operating expense. And right there is the ratio. So it recommends one staff member for infants 0 to 18 months, every 3 to 4. One staff member 5 to 6. One staff member for 8 to 10, 3 to 5-year-olds. And basically, what we gathered from this is that the lucky number 4 staff members for children 0 to 5 years old. We don't expect there to be a multitude of kids within the office. You know, not everyone has young infants walking around. So definitely incentivizing a higher amount of staffing for a lower amount of kids, and again, providing that high-end education service as opposed to, you know, your YMCA daycare. We want to raise the hourly rate from the average $16 an hour to around $18 an hour, so we can land some of these higher young education professionals.
Is this going to be fully funded by MackenSEE, or is there going to be a payroll deduction for the employee? Like, will me as a mother working at MackenSEE, am I going to see a cost on my paycheck for the daycare service, or is my dear colleagues over here picking up the cost?
I mean, we forecast. I mean, I could go back to the cost, but let me do that. So the total cost for the daycare is the $350 to build, and then the yearly total $151,000. This is going to be hopefully generating enough revenue from the women being retained and that trust for the portfolios managed for women, that it'll generate way more than the roughly $500,000 cost of this program. So the idea is that the company is retaining a lot more revenue and making up and covering completely this cost. So no, it would have no impact on women employees. Yeah.
Just last question around the recruitment. So the global recruitment, we're going to pay agency fees, and we're going to take all of the top senior women leaders globally. And we have a 2-year timeline to do that. What's the strategy around filling or creating space for them if there are existing executives in those roles?
Yeah, that's a great point. We looked at, or going to our CSR, the goal is about 4 to 8, just top level executives. And you're right, like that would be a tough pitch to shift from existing portfolios, but we're hoping that they'll come in with a lot of experience and creating new portfolios, because in the case that we were given, said that women like to be part of the planning process. They like to interact with women and have those managers be women. So it's more of just an evolution of the business, that if they're serious about acquiring this share of the market, you're going to have those discussions internally and maybe shift some of the portfolios or break them into separate ones.
And to go off of that, I think it's also very important. You know, it's a two-way street, right? We want these 4 to 8 new leaders from around the world. The reason that we want them to come to us is because they would be invested in kind of our goal to set up the company as well. So we would want them to kind of be of the entrepreneurial mindset and say, you know, we're going to give you a little bit of free reign and let you kind of build out your team, you know, hopefully using the MackenSEE Together initiatives. And I think with that might come some extra costs of building out, you know, more office space and things of that nature. And we don't see that happening until maybe towards that 2028 timeline, when there's actually some more revenue generating things going on at that point, assuming that the MackenSEE is grabbing at that wealth transfer.
I do have to end it there. There's only 20 seconds left. Thank you. I will now ask everybody to leave the room, but
See you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
business strategy at IG Wealth Management.
I'm Daniel Plouf. I have a leadership position within our distribution at IG1.
Hi everyone, my name is Laurence Marcolani. I'm the marketing manager for Brooks Running Canada.
Hi everyone, my name is Elisa Patricia and I'm the head of professional services at Rising HCM.
So I am lucky because I grew up with my grandmother as my role model. Not because she made amazing cakes every Sunday, but actually because she was able to open her own firm at only 35 years old in the 80s. However, the more I talk about it with my friends, the more I realize that not all my friends had the same chance. Hi, we are Unity Consulting today with Chris, Ethan, myself, Charlotte, and Alex, and we are here to show you how you can attract but also develop and grow your woman in your business.
So, why are we here today? Well, you asked us to develop a quickly actionable plan and a strategy that will help recruit more women and retain them as asset managers. And we've asked ourselves 3 key questions here. The first one, well, how can you increase the number of women that you recruit? Second being, well, how do you ensure that they're actually growing in their asset manager positions? And the third one being, well, how can you make sure that they stay and you retain them as employees long term? And we came up with our solution, MackenSEE Together Forever, which is a 5-year strategy to recruit, mentor, and sponsor, but also develop female asset managers and ensure long-term growth. With our three-pronged strategy, invest, grow, and succeed, we will achieve these 3 impacts as seen below. So let's see what you're doing right first. As you can see on the left-hand side, we have 2 pictures here. These are actually straight from your website. And it shows that you have a large community focus. You have this MackenSEE Together initiative, and it's very community-based. Many women are helping out others, and many men are actually involved as well, helping these women come together. There are panels, there are panels and webinars really to show that this community engagement and involvement matters. But other things work as well. And I'd like to align here JP Morgan Chase. And what they have is they have something called Women on the Move. And it's an initiative to provide the opportunities to women for professional growth. And we can see here that as an impact, 49% of employees in 2023 at JP Morgan Chase are actually women all across. And they're actually not afraid of applying because of this Women on the Move initiative. How do they achieve this? Well, they've achieved this through peer-to-peer learning and a small cohort groups. So what they're really focused on instead is they're focused on individual growth and instead of an entire community. But you have this community and you now have to shift to a more individual approach. So what we can take away is that you have this community presence. Now it's time to focus on an individual yet more personalized approach as well. And we've separated this into 3 sectors. The first one being recruitment, second one being career growth, and that third one being long-term retention. Let's take at the first one, recruit. So we've underlined your target student, Taylor, who's really eager to break into the asset management world, into the financial industry. They're around 18 to 23. They spend most of their time at school, on campus. What they're really interested in is breaking into this financial industry, and they're trying to network with the right people. But it's kind of tricky. Only 14% of hiring managers in wealth management industry are actually women. So why does this matter? Well, because women feel comfortable around more women, especially in a male-dominated industry. It's tough to go out there, and you don't see a lot of familiar faces, so it can get really tricky. And we have a case study right here, which is the healthcare industry. The healthcare industry has a lot more women, and they're a lot more comfortable, which helps them for career growth as well, with now over 60% of women holding executive positions in the healthcare industry. So what do you need to do with this? Well, you actually need to get more women that have this leadership experience on campus, and this will allow a more familiar face and the women to be more comfortable, which will allow someone like Taylor to find the right job that they're looking for. So now that we have the recruitment part, let's move on to career growth. So many mentors hold this higher up executive position, and we can see here that only 19% of women are actually CIOs. And that's a very small number of women. And also, executives work 70 hours a week, which is a lot. When it comes to women, they're underrepresented, and they're also too busy to take on this mentorship role. So we wanted to go somewhere else. And where is this? Well, let's take a look at managers and directors, actually. Women represent 30% of middle management positions in the financial industry, which is honestly much better than only 19%. And also what's even better is that they only average out 48 hours per week when it comes to work compared to 70. So managers and directors, they represent a larger number, and they also work less hours than executives. So what we really think that you should do is you should target, you should have directors as mentors and sponsors, as well as managers, rather than executives. And now let's make sure we know how to retain them. So we here have a decision matrix where we've aligned 3 ways that you can retain your employees. The first one being a family investment plan, where you help employees with a family plan, such as matching RESP payments and having like a daycare that's nearby. Next is increased benefits. You already have great benefits, but the third one being, but really want to emphasize more time off and really putting up that parental benefits program. And the third one being 100% remote work, which Fidelity Investments has actually started doing to promote people who want to also be able to take care of their kids at home at the same time. We've aligned 4 different criteria: time to implement, cost to implement, which are 2 things that you really want to focus on. But we also really want to focus on as well employee retention and employee performance. And we can see here that when it comes to time to implement, the family investment plan, just matching, will be the best. Cost to implement, even though it's the cost, probably the most costly, you will have other benefits such as a high employee retention, and the employee performance will still be high since you are giving back and giving them a more personal approach to their family and career development. So let's look back at our little journey that we have over here. We have realized that MackenSEE Investments, what you need to do is you need to get more women with leadership experience on campuses. You need to have directors and managers as mentors and sponsors. And what you should do is you should help employees with a family plan.
So now let's jump into our strategy. We'll be unifying your business with our 3 phases, with MackenSEE Together Forever. Starting off with phase 1, invest. Well, we'll be setting up coffee chats to engage with women interested in working in finance or specifically in an investment career. Moving on to phase 2, grow, where we'll be looking to introduce a sponsorship program and development program for women currently in the industry. And finally, succeed, we'll be retaining these women working at MackenSEE through an in-house daycare, as well as matching their RESP contributions. So now let's jump into phase 1, invest, where we'll be setting up these coffee chats. So first off, I need to note the importance of coffee chats. I myself use them all the time to understand a company, their core values, what the workplace is like, and what it is like to work in that certain career or field. So we see that 89% of new hires feel strongly integrated in the company culture when completing multiple coffee chats. So essentially what we will do, we'll get women-led coffee chats to make it more comfortable and approachable for women to learn about the industry, as well as to get one-on-one engagement. So this will be in place on the MackenSEE website, and they'll be able to access this through available times demonstrated by the workers. So we hope to give up roughly 2 hours per day, and with 50-minute options or 30-minute options, we'll be able to engage roughly 8 students per day. And now this will obviously be able to increase depending on the amount of time they have or the amount of lunch break they want to take away to help out women in the industry. So now let's discuss how we're going to spread awareness of these women-led coffee chats. Well, firstly, we'll be looking through posting this on our social media platform on LinkedIn, as we see that 40 million of the users on LinkedIn are currently college or university students. So we could really spread that awareness and provide a direct link to MackenSEE's website and a direct link to where you could enter in the time that you would like to enjoy the coffee chat, as well as attach your CV for any more information to the person you'll be coffee chatting. And then on to the marketing title will be Brewed for Success. Sip, learn, and empower. And our messaging will be supporting the community of women looking to engage in a finance role and providing an approachable and learning opportunity for them as well. On the other hand, we'll also have on-the-floor marketing with in-person marketing at school associations. So reaching out to one of your already sponsored associations, the Women in Asset Management Program at Western Ivy. And we'll be looking for similar associations to provide a direct channel to women who are interested in this career. So a direct opportunity for them, a learning opportunity, and to continue to support these women associations.
Now that we know how you are going to attract more women employees, the question is going to be, how can they grow within your own company? Well, I want to introduce to you this new sponsorship program that you should definitely introduce in terms of increasing this direct advocacy for more promotions and growth overall. So if we just look at this sponsorship program, how it's going to look like. Well, first of all, it's going to start by identifying high potential. So if we look at, for example, their potential for leadership, but also their performance, because it has to be based, of course, on merit. From that, they can be paired with senior leaders that also have these leadership skills, and together they will be able to have the ability to talk together and to get advice, but also to give to these women that want maybe more challenging opportunities to get these opportunities. So, which leads us to actually step 3, which is going to be the active advocacy and communication. So, it can go from the recommendation for a new project, but it can also go from promoting their mentees in decision-making situations, etc. All of that while keeping in mind that this is a relationship, so there's going to be a lot of communication, a lot of feedback, because it's still a growth process. Now, if we look at overall results of other firms that did the same thing, we can just take the example of BlackRock, who created WIN, which is Women Initiatives Network, and together they wanted to create a more unified workforce. And so they created this sponsorship program where there was a senior that led women employees to have more opportunities and to make them grow together. All of that, the overall result that we're trying to reach from implementing the sponsorship program will be to for women to maybe apply for higher positions. As we can see, 24% of them are more likely to actually ask for a raise through the sponsorship programs, and 22% are more likely to request challenging assignments, which is the goal of this strategy overall. All of that can lead to younger female workers going to maybe more senior positions and then to more leadership positions overall, which will create future role models, like my grandmother for me, for future young female employees. With that in mind, we also want to expand how we're going to actually implement this project. So if we take the example of Taylor, which was our customer persona at the beginning, there's the onboarding process, which is the onboarding process that anybody can go through. It can be women, it can be men. However, where it's going to be different is going to be through the human resource checkups. When they see, linked to also the talent management team, that there's a potential for leadership qualities and that the goals are really there and there's a lot of motivation, that's when there can be the identification of high potential candidates to be part of this sponsorship program, and then being part of the program and having these bi-monthly meetings with their sponsors, with communication and feedback overall. Now, how to incentivize your current employees to actually become sponsors? Because that can be also a question that we can ask ourselves. Well, first of all, there's the possibility of promotions and career advancement. They position themselves as leaders, as people who can also teach and lead, which can be a strong asset. And if they show that they can actually do this work, we can also lead to potential promotions. It can also lead to recognitions and rewards, but also if we take, once again, the example of BlackRock, what they implemented was the male allyship program, which led to an increase of 17% of male employees who also took part of this program and who are willing to help women in this position. Which is why who can be the person to actually be the sponsor can be either female or male, as long as they have this leadership part that we're really looking for here. And then they will be matched with their mentee through similar background and career goals, but also using performance reviews, which will be done by human resource, and also through monthly feedbacks to assure proper results. As in, if we imagine that there's potentially not a good link of two people, there's still the possibility of switching it up to ensure that the result is efficient in the end.
So now let's jump into phase 3, succeed, where we'll be retaining women employees through the daycare program as well as the RESP contributions. So starting off with the daycare program, let's take a look at Patagonia. Patagonia currently has instated a free daycare program at 2 of their office locations. And what has the impact been? 100% of female employees at Patagonia return to work after childbirth. And we have seen that 24% of women leave the workforce within 1 year of their childbirth. So we can see that this has had a significant impact on women staying in the workplace, in the place they love. So what will we be doing exactly? Well, we'll be hiring an external daycare firm to operate with 3 experienced professionals so that parents can trust their stay of their children close by, so they can have lunch breaks with them, maybe see them from time to time when they have time off, and it'll be saving time on transport going to pick up your kid at another location. So defining the scope. So we'll be looking to have this daycare available for children aged from 6 months to 5 years old, as past that point children tend to go into kindergarten or start school. So this will be full-time availability, so all during the work time, your children will be in a safe place, learning, engaging, having free meals, and engaging with people around them. So this can also bring parents closer together, as the children are playing together in the daycare, spending all day together, and it saves you time.
With that in mind, you should also implement a matching RESP contribution, so which means that it's going to be for every employee who has a kid, but also they want to match the employee's contributions to their RESP account. Why do this? Because you want them to feel supported in career growth and in their financial planning, which is so important for them. And it will help you attract and retain highly skilled women, but also show the dedication that you have for their unique financial pressures in these situations. But I'm more than happy to answer any questions regarding this part during the Q&A.
Now that we have the strategy in place, I'd like to walk you through our impacts, my personal favorite part. Starting off with a 5-year implementation timeline, with the setting up of the calendar being one of the first milestones. That itself is just going to take 1 quarter, followed by the starting of the new program. That is going to take around 3 to 4 quarters, and finally, the introduction of the RESP initiative, and that is going to take the remainder of the quarters. All these tying together will unify our solution with your needs. Now let's look at how much this is going to cost. This total cost comes out to $2 million, with most of that actually coming from the RESP accounts. Because we've averaged a 10% estimate, a 10K estimate for every single user that is eligible for these RESPs working with you now, and a daycare hire of $20 per hour, with finally primary marketing happening on LinkedIn. Now, looking at the KPIs and some more assumptions and drivers. Our KPIs here are 61 increased hires. This comes from these coffee chats that you will be having with the women in leadership roles. These coffee chats will then lead into direct increased hires through the different metrics of, and then the costs will then be a cumulative cost of $2 million. And finally, the 10-year turnover will decrease by -5%. And here, you can see some risks and mitigations. Some risks that we have found are the lack of employees for daycares, but some mitigation to this is easily accessing directly through other daycares and speaking them in person. And next will be the engagement on LinkedIn, a lack of engagement. And this doesn't need to be just limited on LinkedIn. You can go onto other social platforms where students are often found, and anywhere else like in-person contributions. And finally, the resistance to participation. But by using AdCar, an HR-heavy strategy, you can ensure that everybody participates and everybody can equip the model.
Perfect. With that in mind, we were here today to develop a quickly actionable strategy for MackenSEE Investments to help them recruit more women and retain them as asset manager. And we were able to do that through MackenSEE Together Forever, through investing, growing, and succeeding in the end. So thank you very much. We were Unity Consulting today with Ethan, Chris, myself, Charlotte, and Alex. We open now the floor for questions.
So we now begin the 10-minute Q&A.
Start. Great presentation. I want to know when we're speaking about RESP. Just make sure, like my colleague, we're speaking about the account for the children.
Yeah.
How do you arrive with 10K per year, considering that, let's say in Quebec, you can put up to 2,500 or maybe 5,000 per kids, and you get the full subvention of the government. So I'm not sure why 10K per person, let's say.
Yeah, so that was just an average, and that included all of the employees.
Okay.
So some of them who don't have children was also included in that average.
Perfect. And second question, for Coffee Chat, never heard of it. I was surprised. Yes, we want to aim for, let's say, the 3rd or 4th year student, and if we speak with the association, the student who are getting, let's say, internship are the 4th and the 3rd, and we want to speak to them. We don't want to, let's say, we want to speak to the 1st and 2nd year, but we prefer 4th year or 3rd year. What are the measures that you guys will put in to make sure that we speak to the good student? Because most of the time it's the 1st year or 2nd year that want to speak to us, and we love them, yeah, but it's tough for us to be engaged with them, considering they will probably do 2 or 3 more internship after they come with us.
So you're asking, like, what's the filter?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So for a filter process, when they sign up for this coffee chat, you can ask directly when's your expected graduation date, so you can gauge if they're a 3rd or 4th year.
Wonderful. Easy as that.
Thank you, guys. 2 questions. First, Charlotte. That was my grandmother's name, by the way. So I'd love to know more about your grandmother. What type of business she started at age 35, and why is she your role model?
She opened a coffee shop. So it might not be like you, but for me it was a role model, because I would consider that in the 80s, being a woman opening your own coffee shop, and she did it by herself, even though she was married, was for me the way to look up to it and see it as a courageous action, let's say.
On slide 8 also here, you talk about one way to retain female employees is to allow them to work 100% remote. But then later on you say, no, let's bring them back at work and let's open up daycares instead and having them on site for 100%. So which one is it?
So this is an alternative. As seen here, the ideal way to go is with the family investing plan, because women still do want to work and they still want to grow in their career. Having a 100% remote work also decreases performance. So what we really want is we really want them to have this benefit of the family investing plan.
Thank you for the presentation. One question back on the coffee chat. I'm curious to know, you've mentioned like 61 new hires from this initiative. After a coffee chat is done, how are you keeping this person within your inner like circle, or how are you making sure this translates into an actual hire?
Yeah, so that's all about reaching out and having that constant engagement, whether it be through other points of contact, such as email, or keeping up with them through messages through LinkedIn, to really ensure that they go fully through that process.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you for the presentation. I just actually this slide was where I had my questions. What is the justification, or how did you come up with that working 100% remote reduces employee performance and retention? It's a very low score.
Yeah, so for employee performance, remote work does reduce performance compared to in person, which is why we see actually a lot of companies are starting to say mandatory in person at work. We just saw actually it was JP Morgan Chase that the CEO lost it because everybody was on their phone during one of the meetings and put his foot down and said everybody has to go back into work. I don't accept this. And this is why we really believe that employee performance has is low scored. And for retention, well, if they're at home and their kids are still in the background, they might be distracted, and that might end up turning out for them to just be more caregivers than workers, and that might just make them drop instead.
Okay. Do you think daycare or taking care of the children is the only reason why women leaders are leaving organizations?
No, I don't believe that's the only reason.
Okay. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
How are we doing on time?
Oh yeah, you got 4 minutes and a half.
Oh.
I have another question. There was a slide about, I think it's Taylor's persona. Have you guys expanded on their preference when it comes to recruitment, or what are their needs when they're looking for a new job? What are the obstacles that maybe a financial industry have that you guys could put into a program to kind of alleviate those?
So I think one of the main aspects that we can see within Taylor itself, we're more looking to a younger generation, so before they can reach these more senior roles overall. However, keeping in mind also that there's a possibility of women maybe wanting to have a child in a matter of 10 years or plus. So to meet these goals of, yes, I want to have my work-life balance, for example, goal number 1, being able to still continue this career path and professional growth while being able to also have a personal life on the side and taking care of my children, if that's answer your question.
Do we have one more?
Of course, sure.
If you could have 3 more hours to resolve the case, what would be the next step for you, or what could you change? Like, I want to hear about if you could have more time. Like, let's say it was a 24-hour case.
Yeah. I think definitely one of the things that we would have developed more is like our phases and really the approach, and actually go into detail on how on how the individual interaction actually is. For example, we went like a brief overview over here and here, but if we had 24 hours, it would really be in depth on what the conversations are going to be said, how it's going to be laid out, and how are we really going to, roll the carpet for their career growth.
Thank you.
Still time, 2 minutes, 30 seconds.
Just quick, is the daycare fully funded by MackenSEE, or is there going to be a cost to the
Yeah, that's fully funded by MackenSEE. So it's similar fact to the Patagonia daycare.
Okay.
And are the daycare in the office?
Yeah, it'll be in the same office building, but not intervening with any office work.
Okay, but if there is no space, like if we reduce the space of the office because the employee are not getting it like in the office 5 days a week, and we decide as a company to reduce the space and there's no place for the daycare, what do we do?
Yeah, so we'll be looking to see if there's any new availabilities on different floors potentially, or to a nearby location.